All right, you bunch of yahoos, strap yourselves in for another episode of Dan and Don's Toxic Masculinity.
In other words, shut up, sit up, and pay attention.
And welcome back to another episode of Toxic Masculinity. We are here to offend, defend, entertain anybody and everybody. We are a couple of old crotchety farts that have a bad habit of speaking the truth and won't let a few facts get in the way of a good story. We believe in America and Americans. And if this isn't for you, well, then I suggest you change the channel. We still believe in freedom of speech and we'll rub your face into it like the cow pie of reality. Let's see where we're at. Okay. Normally I would be introducing my cohort, Don Fry, but Don is a little under the weather. I think he has either hoof and mouth syndrome or the drizzly shits. I'm not sure. They're kind of both somewhat similar. We want to wish him a speedy recovery. Sitting in for Don tonight is Tony Martinez. Tony is a homeless man that I saw pushing his grocery cart down the sidewalk. I'm sorry. I mean his RV down the street. I said to myself, "Hey, there's a guy with a mustache and a goatee. He can easily fill in for Don Fry here tonight." So here we go. Here we go. A little tribute to Johnny O, who knows who I'm quoting him when I say that. Here we go. Here we go. Another true American, a ring announcer who pays tribute to all the men and women of uniform. Tonight's guest is none other than Sunny Ono. I've known Sunny from basically the wacky world of professional wrestling, but Sunny has a very diverse background, being in the movies and just doing a number of other things. But tonight it's going to be, we're just going to have a chance here to talk with Sunny, get to know him a little bit more, and hopefully get you fans to know a little bit more about the legend of Sonny Ono.
Hey, how are you?
Sonny, we are doing fantastic. We got Tony that is down in Tucson, Arizona. I'm back in Coldwater, Michigan, and you just made the comment that you are in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, right outside of Dallas. Of course, you know,
Okay.
I live in a town called Sunnyvale, so there you go.
Yeah,
Sunnyvale, Texas.
Nice. Well, again, Texas is one of those states that even though, I mean, we're not going to try to get too political here right now, but Texas is one of those states that's been, I don't know, it seems like open for business. Texas,
Yeah.
Florida, you know, a couple good states there that seemed like they weren't real concerned about some of the wackiness and weirdness that was going on with all of these people running around. And I don't have none of these states to show the mask and stuff like that. But
Well, you know, I was in Japan in January. You know,
yeah, we can't hear you.
did you lose me?
Yep. Okay, we just now got you back. Yep. Yeah, we just lost your voice there. It's kind of again. I don't know if you tried. I don't know if you try to trick us at some of these bad foreign films where the mouth is moving, no words are coming out, and then all of a sudden, like it comes out in there.
No, we're not doing a Chinese movie gimmick. No. Dad,
So,
kill you. One of those, you know.
yes,
But anyway.
exactly.
But no, I was in Japan. Everybody was wearing a mask, and I come back to Dallas, and nobody wears a mask here. You know, so
Yeah. But one of the things, again, you know, I'll say, like early on in my career, the first few times I did go to Japan, one of the things I really did like about Japan is the fact that the people are very courteous. They're courteous people. It's a very clean country. You don't see graffiti. You don't see trash on the ground like you see here in the United States. It's pretty. Americans could learn a lot about, you know, how to keep your country clean, culture wise and stuff like that.
yeah,
But
you know, Dan, I work as an international consultant for a lot of business. What people wants to do business in Japan. It just fundamentally way they do business, way they live, it's whole different, right? You said you've been to Japan, so you understand this.
yes,
That from the childhood, first thing you learn is be mindful of others. In other words, if I do something, how is it going to affect the guy who's next to me? That's the first thing they learn as a kid. So that's why you saw the at the World Cup on the soccer, Japanese guys were cleaning up their, the stadiums after the game,
Yes.
because they knew somebody else going to come and sit here after I'm gone. So that's the theory. Same thing with the mask. People were wearing a mask way before COVID in Japan, because if I got a cold, and if I'm, if I'm coughing, that means I'm going to affect the people who's around me. Therefore, I wear a mask.
Yeah.
So the whole theory is different. And same thing in a business. Japanese don't want to come. Yeah,
I was just don't mean to interrupt you, but just stopped at that first point, because the mask only really came out in the United States just in the last couple of years, where it was big time mask. But I noticed that way. I mean, 30 years ago, when I was making my first trips to Japan, I noticed, like, I'd see someone on a bus, or I see someone on a subway, and I see them wearing a mask. I'm thinking, wow, they're wearing a mask. But I kept thinking, but you couldn't find it, because I would ask an interpreter, something like that, why are they wearing a mask? And like, going, well, they probably have a cold or something like that. They're being courteous of others. I'm thinking, whoa, that to me made perfect sense.
It just that's why people like to live there. Aside from not having a lot of space, but if you go in the country, you're okay. But it's like, it's interesting, because he's here. It's me, right? What's good for me? What am I getting out of this? Over there, it's like when Japanese sends out a satellite, right? The big project, like putting a satellite up in a space.
Yep.
They don't do it by themselves. They do it with like 3 different companies. Generally, Sumitomo, Mitsubishi, Mitsui, or something like that. There's a family that runs Japan, actually. But they're always, so if we succeed, we all succeed. If we fail, not one person takes the brunt of it. So they always share in their success, and they also share in their failure too. But if you fail, it doesn't kill me. I have 2 other brothers who's gonna take the brunt of that, whatever the cost is. But that's their theory. So their thinking is a little different.
No, some of the first couple of trips I made over to Japan, I was very impressed with, well, first off, how small, like, a hotel room could be.
Yeah,
and yet, but yet so very proficient. But then later on, because the tiny homes movement was nowhere even in a thought process inside the United States, until, again, probably 25 to 30 years later, did this tiny homes movement. I'm thinking, tiny homes movement could learn an awful lot from the Japanese culture, because when you would go into a restaurant and you would see where the cook is doing all of their business, where the counter is, and where the people are sitting, you'd be surprised. In such a small area, you'll have 4 or 5 tables all going at it, and the cooks and everyone's busy, and it's like, wow,
efficient.
this is very efficient. You think this is only like a couple of bedrooms put together in like an America type of home, but the way that it's all laid out, it makes sense. Now, it probably wouldn't be as precise, because a lot of Americans are not exactly the same physical stature as Japanese people. But I always tell people, America might be number 1 in a lot of different ways, including obesity. Now, we have such large people. There's a problem with getting their hind ends and their guts around different types of things, because maybe they shouldn't be eating as much as what they're eating in process.
But as you know, in Japan, there's a lot of public transit, and we do a lot of walking.
Yes,
we do a lot of walking in Japan, which we don't do here. I mean, including myself. We just jump in a car and go 2 miles.
Yeah, well, we're good. Like I always say, everyone drives to the gym to get a workout in, or it's kind of like going, geez, they're just.
I gotta go to the gym and get on the treadmill so I can do my cardio.
Yes, yeah, no, comical type aspect. Let's just kind of jump into it there. And again, Tony, if I'm talking too much, just forgive me, for it's the caffeine that's starting to kick in here really good.
Oh, good.
Sonny, I'm just gonna jump around to different parts of this right now, but I want to kind of know, because I'm looking at it from a fan's perspective right now. Where did you get your start? Because I mean, as I was reading different things about you, you've been involved in movies, you've been as in professional wrestling, you've done commercials, you've done so many different types of things. It's like, where did you start? Did you have an athletic career early on in the high school, college, or what inspired you to get into something different? Where did the spark come?
Well, I immigrated here when I was 11 years old. I came with my mother and my two other younger sisters. Well, like in 1968 or so, somewhere around there. And when I came here, first thing, you kids from Japan, I don't speak any English, but you go to a grade school. They didn't have special ed or anything like that to help the people who didn't speak English
Right.
back then. They just kind of threw you in there, And one of the things they kind of expected the Asian kid to have is to be able to speak
Eng- English.
English, but I couldn't, and they expected you to know some martial arts. So I was doing judo back then, and so it was really funny that judo and karate was like something you learned when you were in school, just like you guys play baseball here,
Yeah.
and now soccer and football, certainly here in Dallas. But in Japan, it was a martial art. It was kendo, which was fencing. There was always a club, judo, of course, that's grappling, and you did karate. Those were the kind of thing that there was a club after school, so we all kind of did it. And when I came to U.S., hey, you kid from Japan, you must know some of that karate, kung fu stuff, don't you? And
Called stereotyping here. Okay, yeah.
Absolutely. But I gravitated towards that. I mean, I found a club, a judo club, and I found a karate school. So I did that through high school, and I continued to do that till I got into in my early 20s. I started competing nationally through Midwest, and that's basically how I got into. Believe it or not, I befriended a guy named by Eric Bischoff, who became a president of WCW later on. And we used to travel around the country, going to a karate tournament. And
that's where you actually met Eric, because that was going to
Yeah.
be one of my questions later on about how you get involved with WCW. But he was in karate way back.
He
Way
was in
back then.
Minneapolis. I was in Iowa, about 100 miles south. And we would get in a car and go to Atlanta, Georgia, or North Carolina, or Dallas, or all over the United States. We would drive, and it's the only way we found out that we could have fun, because we, on early 20s, we get to see some young ladies, we get to fight and not go to jail. That's basically, we didn't.
Well, again, I'd say at that time era, you were probably living like the American dream at that point in time, because it was a different era at that point in time. Drinking age was a lot younger at that point in time there as well. So, I remember, again, being in high school and then traveling with a couple seniors, and we would go to an amateur wrestling tournament. When the tournament's done, they're pulling into the local stop and rob type of a party store. They're grabbing themselves a couple six packs. Again, at that time, they came out with carbonated Gatorade. It's like going, I grabbed myself a six pack of carbonated Gatorade, and these guys they're driving, drinking beers, and it's like it's just a different time era at that point. There were no drinking laws of the nature. Well, behind the wheel, you didn't have to have a seatbelt on. I mean, there was, like I said, just a different time era altogether.
It really was, because you could be underage, or drinking, or it was open containment. You get pulled over, and cop will pull you over and tell you this says, take your beer, and tell you to get your ass home.
Yeah, exactly. It was a different way of even how the law enforcement would conduct themselves. I mean, it was that old theory of it takes a village to raise a child, and the village did it. I mean, but it's kind of like when it wasn't. They weren't simply just sending you out to prison. It basically is like, no, you're being a dumbass here. Taking the beer, get home. That kind of stuff.
But that's how we became pretty good friends, and we done some business together in the early 20s. And I created this little game called Ninja Star Wars, which was a star made out of Velcro, and we had a vest that the Velcro would stick to, and it was a low tech laser tag. That's what it was. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And we would create a storyline like capturing the flags and that kind of thing. And I showed it to Eric. We used to play this thing in our karate school. And Eric says, "Hey, you gotta manufacture this thing, and we gotta get it on TV and sell this stuff." And what's going to happen is that he says, I said, "I don't know anything about marketing, Eric," and he says, "Well, we got to get this on national TV." So I said, "Okay, how are we going to do that?" He says, "Well, I know this wrestling company, AWA, up there in Minneapolis, it was Vern Gagne, and they had a syndicated show on ESPN. And what they would do is they would take their TV show, sell it, or they would do kind of trade. They would give them like commercial time and sell the national commercial time up in Minneapolis." Well, Eric went in and made a deal, says, "Hey, give us one of your commercial time. We'll make a commercial, put it on, and we'll sell the thing all over the United States, and we'll split the money with you." And rest is kind of story. So those of you who hate Eric Bischoff being in wrestling business, they can blame me for it. Because what happened was Vern Gagne and those guys said, "Gee, here's this good-looking kid, Eric Bischoff. He's a great salesman, So let's make him a salesperson." He got a job as a syndicated salesman for AWA, and later became announcer when one of the announcer was not in the shape to do the TV show. So they put a jacket on Eric Bischoff, and he became a third string announcer.
Wow.
And that moved down, and then he went, because he was going down to Atlanta to sell the TV show, and he got a job down there with WCW, and that's how he got into wrestling.
Wow, that was amazing. That was amazing. Tony, just to kind of bring you up to speed. Last summer, I happened to be up in Cody, Wyoming. There was a event that took place in Cody, Wyoming. There, the cast. What was that called?
It's a fundraiser thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was called the Cody Days. Is what it was. There was a rodeo, and there was actually a golf outing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there were all that
with the fights.
Yeah, they had there was the fight, but then they also had. I mean, like I said, they had a lot of different celebrity athletes from just a vast array of sports and stuff like that. And that's where literally, I mean, I had met Eric Bischoff before, but in a very kind of like more of a business type of manner. But this was actually kind of like laid back individual. It's like going, we're at his home. We're at his home.
We went to his house for dinner. Yeah.
And he's cooking like what Kobe beef, I think it was, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, I would have never known he was such a chef because he had meat thermometers. It's like the fantastic meal that his wife and him prepared. But I had a chance there for over the course of a couple of days. I wish I had more time, but that was where I hit this deer or antelope or what I had. I spent more time on the phone trying to get a vehicle because all during the COVID there, I trying to find a rental car, trying to buy a car. And
tell them what happened. You got in a car wreck.
It was again. I'm actually going to that same event this coming year, and I told myself I'm going to travel a little bit differently because I don't want to hit any more animals. I need no more hood ornaments. But that was, I'm only there going there. What I want people to realize, I hit this again. I'm not sure if it was a deer, an antelope, a mule deer. Not sure. It didn't stop to identify itself.
Something big.
But it jumped out of the ravine, and basically by the time I realized it's there, bam! And I've never had a airbag go off my face, but like boom, all done. I'm thinking, am I hurt or what? I don't know. All I know is that as I'm coasting down the freeway, my engine's dead. Okay, I can see the front end is caved in, and I'm like going. What I want people to understand is the speed limit in Wyoming is 80 miles an hour. So means Dan Severn was doing probably 85, maybe pushing to 90 miles an hour. Because I'm like, I've always, I deal with a lot of law enforcement. They're like, Dan, just keep it underneath this. You'll be good to go. So I just usually set the cruise. It's my set on cruise, and bam. And all I know is like as I'm rolling, knowing that I better get this car off the road before I come to a dead still. But there is no shoulder. I'm like going, there's a ravine, but there's no shoulder. So I eventually got it off enough and had to go back and was kicking all the scrap plastic and stuff like that. And then it's kind of like going, go back to my cell phone. It's like going, it's like 6 a.m. in the morning. I'm looking all around, not another vehicle in sight. And I'm like going, help, help, help. There's nothing out there. I'll get it. I'll leave it at that. I mean, but being at that event, I was able to sit down with both Sonny and with his wife and with Eric Bischoff and his wife. Being at Eric Bischoff's home, the home that he had specially built just so he could watch the sunrise. The way he had the way he had the way house built, and it was just looking at this beautiful sunrise and sunset. I mean, nice, just nice accommodations right there.
It looked like artwork down there, looking outside of his. Remember the bar he had?
Oh yeah, like that old like nostalgic 1800.
Bar. Yeah, it's like bars were literally from 1800. And his house is absolutely beautiful. He built that house, but the way you see from his back window into I mean, it's like a picture, something you see in cowboy on a mural, because you got a mountain on both sides. And you got ravine that comes down, and you got a big old water lake that goes out there. It's pretty amazing, really. It's a beautiful. I don't know how many acres he has, but he has 10 plus acres, and he's got it going on pretty good the way he wants to live.
Yeah, like I said, the biggest thing I liked about that was simply I got a chance to actually get to know him in a very relaxed atmosphere. There wasn't the hustle and bustle of the professional business or like that. It was just a very relaxed, individual, but then not only at his home, but then also being at the different events, the banquets and stuff like that, just to see how people interact, and it was great. I mean, I really enjoyed the event, and I look forward to going to it again this coming summer. I'm just going to do it a little bit differently and keep my eyes a little bit better peeled for deer, antelope, whatever else.
If you fly into Billings, you don't want to fly into Cody because there's only like one flight a day. So you fly into Billings, it's about an hour drive north, from Cody, Wyoming. Cody, Wyoming, ladies and gentlemen, it's the entrance to the great national park. So
Yellowstone.
Yellowstone, yeah.
Yellowstone.
So it's pretty cool, and it's Cody is a name after Buffalo Bill Cody.
Buffalo Cody.
Yeah.
The Wild West Show, Wild Bill Cody. Yeah.
And Irma Hotel, which is the famous hotel there, that the people can stay there. That Irma Hotel was the granddaughter, I think, or daughter or granddaughter of Buffalo Bill. I mean, it's like when you go there, it's like going back in time, right?
It was. Well, I enjoyed it because I ended up staying in one of the cabins. And it was
so did I. I stayed in
because I mean, staying in a hotel room. I've stayed in lots of hotel rooms. I'm like, no, I'd like to stay in this lodge. I love the lodge because it was. I mean, each day I'd come out, then you got squirrels. I mean, these squirrels are so domesticated. I mean, literally, you walk out, you think they would run right. No, they're like, well, what you got for me? And it's like they're looking at you like, okay, well, I see you, you see me. What you got for me? It's like they're waiting for you to throw them something.
It's really funny at Cody Hotel or Irma Hotel. They have a gunfight. Reenactment of a gunfight there every day. I think it's the 5 or 6. So when sun's going down, they have a big gunfight there. I don't know if you caught that or not, but it's pretty cool. And if you ever get a chance, that's really an experience. Certainly I've been there twice now. And I'm gonna go. We're planning on going back. I'll see you over there this year.
No, good. No, but, I was going to ask you if your intentions are to come back, because my intention is to go back to it because I want to spend a few extra days afterwards. I want to go to Yellowstone National Park because I think last spring, due to the rain and stuff like that, part of the
Right. There was a flood going on. Remember?
yeah,
Big
they
flood.
had floods going on. So
Before
I'm
we got
hoping that that does not happen because I would like to spend a few more days and actually take that in because that's it's just a historic site. I love to see it
And Dan was spending most of his time. Every time I saw him, and I would see him a few
on the
times.
phone.
We stay on the cabin. You know, we were like field door down from each other. And I say, hey Dan, you want to know? He'll be like, he's on the phone trying to
Yeah,
find a car, buy a car. You know, get his
it
car
was
towed. It was like you
yeah.
were busy all the time.
Yeah, it was just crazy because I mean I'd say I have a normal amount of craziness, but this with having that whole car issue, and then knowing that I can't even get a rental car until like 3 or 4 days after I'm supposed to depart, and I can okay, how's that going to work? And even then though, Sonny, I didn't. They couldn't tell me what kind of a car I would get. Is it going to be a truck? Is it going to be a car? I mean, it just and at a rate of $500 a day.
Yeah, it's insane.
I mean that because that car's only gonna make a one-way trip, so that's what's like. Oh well, this was our option. Let's start looking at buying something up here now. So
Right.
I had
Right.
now getting transportation to the folks that hosted me up there. They were they actually gave me a car to use. So like I can't say enough nice things. The people of Cody were just fantastic. How they helped me get to and fro and. I did I tell you that my hair was jet black then, and all that stress has caused all this to happen to me.
So that must be what happened to me. So,
Well,
but yeah,
it's all it's. But I always tell people that because I always set up like a little display and I put up all these different 8x10s. And as they look down, they look at you, they look down, they look at you. I go. That's called just for men, number 45. I go. I've been coloring my hair for so many years. I go, before I ever entered professional wrestling, I was coloring my hair. Before I ever entered in the octagon cage, I was coloring my hair because of the psychological edge of if you were walking into a cage to fight someone, are you going to be intimidated when you look across there and you see a gray hair, gray mustache, gray eyebrow individual? No.
right.
So, but I learned that actually, I learned a lot of that through professional wrestling because my first profession was professional wrestling. And so it's all about
It's
visual, okay? Because you tell
persona
your
you
story,
create.
yeah, you tell your story for through audio, visual. I mean, and most time people aren't going to be able to hear you, so it's the way that you carry yourself, and that's why you see when wrestlers are walking to that ring, how they posture up, how they bow their back and they puff up their chest like peacocks and stuff like that. I mean, it's
Well,
comical, but they're telling a story.
let me ask you this: when you did one of the first UFC fight. Matter of fact, I was there when he fought in the first octagon, actually. But I was in the audience watching that stuff. But did you what did they announce you as a professional wrestler?
No,
What?
no, what they touted on is well at the very first one, it was the standard type lines of like where were you where do you live, what's your height, weight, age, all that kind of stuff. And even then they got different things wrong. They never had my age right. Um, but then they asked me the question, so what's your fighting style? I had never been asked that question before, so I just paused for a second. I'm like, I'm an American wrestler. But when I said
Okay.
that line, American wrestler, the lady had never heard that response before. So she like looks left and right. She leans in, she goes, what exactly does that do? And then I kind of like mimicked her. I look left and right and I go, you might want to watch. I'm making this up as I go. Because I mean, I only trained, I mean, Sunday, I mean, when I tell people I only trained for 5 days, an hour and a half a day, and I never trained a single submission. I never trained a single legitimate strike. I had Al
Wow.
Snow, professional wrestler Al Snow,
Sure.
and
Sure. I
trainer,
know.
him and a couple other professional wrestling proteges inside of a professional wrestling ring because a professional wrestling ring was the closest thing I could come to a cage of a confinement.
Right.
And they had one old pair of boxing gloves and they tried to punch, kick, and do whatever submissions you could do with boxing gloves on. And I go, what did I really learn? I mean, Sonny, I wish I could have had some film footage of that training camp because it was pure gold. It was so much comedy because No, they didn't know what they're doing. I don't know
Right.
what I'm doing. It was the biggest cluster you could
Well,
ever imagine.
UFC didn't know what they were doing. It was the Ultimate Fight Championship,
Oh,
and basic premises was who what's the best style, and of course everybody learned right away is that it wasn't the style, it was just
an
the individual.
individual. Yeah, an
Of course,
individual who came along because you've seen strikers that been able to win, you've seen grapplers that been able to win, and the sport has evolved full circle to where you have strikers that can grapple with the best of the grapplers, and you got grapplers that can strike with the best of the strikers. So now the sport has gone full circle. It's been around for 30 years. You've got this new evolution of an athlete.
and of course when you when you fought UFC, there was no weight classes. I mean that makes a big difference.
No weight classes, no time periods. When you think about no time periods, cardiovascular is going to play in there somewhere along the ways. Someone's going to get a little bit huffing and puffing. So that's it was like the wild west, and even then, the UFC themselves, they allotted like 2 hours to do an 8-man tournament.
Right.
They did not have all of these previous interviews, or all this stuff. So if a match goes short, they did not have filler. So now when they're turning the camera back towards the announcer's booth, and they're like they're looking at each other like, what are we talking about? It's like, well, did anybody find that tooth that flew out of the last guy's head? They're like going, well, here's our t-shirts. They were lost. It is a very well-oiled machine today.
Now, oh my God! I mean, Endeavor paid all that money. I mean, can you imagine?
Okay, just recently, you see where the uniting
WWE,
WWE and the UFC coming together underneath the same umbrella. Wow! I mean, I can't even imagine.
Think about this for a minute, okay? How smart is Vince McMahon? Vince McMahon got ousted, as you know. Most of you guys who listen to this probably know. Got ousted because of his personal issues. Let's just leave it at that. And they kicked him out. And he says, "Well, I'm coming back," because he's a major stockholder, or he owns all the stock or the majority of the stock. So he comes back and says, "I'm coming back only to facilitate this sale of this, sell this company." Well, he doesn't sell to Disney. He doesn't sell to Universal. He actually do a merger with Endeavor. Before that, he announces 2-year contract. So he's there now. He didn't just come back. He's going to be there at least 2 years or longer. And he sold his stock, a controlling stock, to Endeavor. So what happened? Stockholder made money because the stock is going up because of what happened. But Vince McMahon is still there, still in charge, but made all that money on sale. I mean, this guy's brilliant. My God.
Well, again, it was almost comical how it all came about in a lot of different ways. But again, who got the last laugh? Vince. I mean, even though he kind of got his he got a little bit of a pickle here, a little bit of a pickle there, but the man is almost like the Teflon man.
And he's still there. Yeah. What's going to be interesting is because UFC right now has a deal with ESPN2. That's why they broadcast all this stuff.
Yep.
And they do a pay-per-view through ESPN. So, and of course, everybody knows ESPN is owned by Disney, ABC, and Disney. So Disney going to have their, is WWE programming. Are they going to go to ESPN through Disney Network, like Disney Plus, ESPN2? So that's going to be interesting because their TV deal is running out now. So they have to renew their deal. So I got a feeling because UFC's model, they give you preliminary fights, right? Then you got to go pay $79.95 to go watch the main event.
Watch the main event, yeah.
So what's going to happen to all the pay-per-view from WWE? You're not going to be able to get it with part of your package from $9.95 on the Peacock channel. I think they're gonna have to pay the big money like they used to back, before they went into streaming service. So that's all going to be very interesting. I think but either way, it's evolving. It's a huge business. I was in WrestleMania. I was over there at WrestleCon signing autograph. Dan, you need to come with me next time when I go. You can sit in a table next to me and sign some autograph.
Sonny, you just let them know to have them get in contact with you. It's like going, I would simply just enjoy just the conversation and just be caught up, because it's good. I always tell people that, people have been involved in the industry for a lot of different reasons, things of that nature. It's kind of going, it's nice to know that you just, it's because of your brain power, and versus are you a big goony looking type of a wrestler or something like that. So, and to be able to stick around it as long as what you have. How long has Eric Bishop had?
Longevity you have, I know you do you still do a lot of clinic, and you still do a lot of teaching. And that alone is amazing career you had. You have taken your notoriety and being a great fighter. You're a real deal that still teaches the real fights. And people knows who Dan Severn is. So and when they have the things like WrestleCon, where basically a fan comes out, wants to meet you, get a picture with you, get your autograph. Those things are you giving it back to the fan. And for us, we get to see the people in the industry that we've done business with, friends, and so it's a good time, and you make a couple bucks, but more than anything else, you get to hang out with a lot of your old friends.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, but even the looking at the American market, but then now looking at the Japanese market, because the Japanese have a much greater appreciation for if a athlete icon or whatever that stays around for a while. I mean, they just have a much greater appreciation of that kind of stuff. So I looked at. I know we chatted a little bit about this when we were in Wyoming. There, that Casper, that I should say Cody, that maybe you could be my spokesperson for a few things over into Japan, and that's because I would, now that we're finally out of we're moving forward. The world is trying to move forward in business and other things right now. So I definitely off the air we'll chat about some other things. If again we didn't get a chance to talk to you springboarded, you utilized your wrestling career though, but you've been involved in a number of movies too, correct?
Well, it was my martial art. I was asked to be in a movie, Film One production company out of Canada. A friend of mine, another martial artist I used to compete with, Jalal Mahi, and he had a production company in Canada. This is like early '90s, 89, 90s. And we're young, and the guy said, "Hey, you wanna read?" They gave me a script, and I said, "Yeah, I like this script, but I like this guy better." It was a second lead in the part, which was I played a Hong Kong policeman. And actually, you remember Bolo Young, the big muscle guy in Bruce Lee movie, The Enter the Dragon? He was in a movie with me, and Jamie Farr from MASH, he was in a movie with me. And
I just love the MASH series in the first place. It's just such good comedy,
So how it is. If Dan, just like you back in the UFC days, says, "Well, you want to get in and fight?" Well, okay, with this fighting, yeah, it's real fighting. Okay, you don't say, "Well, I never done this before." No, you said, "No, yeah, I'll fight somebody, no problem."
Yeah,
it's no different if Dan, with the mustache you got, if somebody called you up and says, "Hey, we want you in this Western," you put a hat on you and you I don't know if you can ride a horse, but if a producer asks you, "Can you ride a horse?" You said, "Sure, I can ride a horse."
Tip the head up, little lady, where do you go? I mean, you betcha I put on my best old country Western dialogue I can.
Yeah, last time you probably wore a spur, you were probably with some young lady with a whip on her hand. But anyway,
we won't talk about any of those right now.
Talk about what you did in Japan. All right, okay.
if people want to get in contact with you, because you said that you're still an entrepreneur, that if people want to get in contact with Sunny Ono to say they want to book you for different things, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Well, just the best way to do is find me on Facebook.
Okay.
I'm the Sonny Ono, and just message me. Private message me, and I'll get back to you. But yeah, it's pretty easy. We're but Dan, I think I'm gonna have to get you back in Japan.
Well, again, before I get too much older here right now, it's
they do
before I start my new career,
they do have a legend show where where they bring you in, do the little talk show, and do autograph signing. I went back, I did autograph signing, and my thing just sold out. So I did an hour signing. It sold out. I was there in the Yokohama Arena, and what was real cool was that I brought Sting there for the Great Muda's last event, and 30,000 people at the Yokohama Arena. It was pretty amazing.
Wow. That really amazed me, because I've seen I've been to a couple of different like WrestleCon type of events where Sting is there. I was really impressed with the line for Sting. It kind of just blew me away, and I kept thinking, I always kept thinking, well, what is that mystique there about the professional wrestling character Sting? I maybe I just didn't follow it enough to understand what that is. But can you explain a little bit of that?
Well, I think he had a different persona, but when he went to that kind of that crow character, the black
the
and
baseball bat and all that.
I think and he didn't do a lot of speaking. Before that, he was kind of like the red, white, and blue, blonde hair Sting, and he went from that to this dark character, and he didn't speak much, and I think people kind of gravitated to that, and like anti-hero kind of character, and he's one of the very few living legends who's still out there wrestling. I think people want to get to him before he quit altogether. I mean, Ric Flair, when he does autograph signing, I think he charged like a couple $100 a signature, and he got a line that doesn't quit.
Yeah. I mean, everyone knows when Ric Flair is in that building, because as he's walking through, everyone's doing the woo, woo, woo. And so you hear it all over the place. It's I don't know if he ever realized when he did that people would be doing. I remember being at a high school wrestling tournament. I didn't know he was there, but all of a sudden I started hearing all this, and then I finally started seeing Ric Flair. He was there to watch his son wrestle. Is what he was
his boy Reed used to wrestle. Matter of fact, he went to Japan, and his boy went to Japan and wrestled. And he was involved in a lot of AAU stuff. He was a proud dad, and he would show up, and but for those of you who don't know, Ric Flair that you see on television is real Ric Flair. You know that, he's like that all the time. There's no fake.
I mean, what you see on television, you see behind stage. He is a living, breathing person of that character, So
that character is him.
Yeah. So, well, Sonny, I don't want to cut you off. Is there anything else you want to plug or anything like that? I mean, is there Tony? Did we miss anything we should jump into? I mean, I just looked at the time just flew by here just now for a quick hour.
I'd like to know. I know from 75 to like 87, you did professional kickboxing and martial arts tournaments, and you were also the Professional Karate Association named you the best bantamweight in the world at that time.
Yeah, back in the days, this is pre-UFC, so this is kickboxing. We used to do what we call point fighting. It's kind of like fencing. It's control blows. Most of the karate tournament, when they fight, it's control blows, right? We're not trying to drill our fist through the guy's chest. We're not trying to kick to take guy's head off. But the control part is part of the competition. It's kind of almost like an art form, right? Hitting somebody without, breaking bones. And although a lot of bone gets broken at the competition, but so we just said, so there was always an argument. If Dan Severn and I was fighting, we're both point fighter, who had who first, there'll be 4 judges, and red flag or white flag will go up, and it's a judgment call. Who hit who first, right? A lot like fencing. So some point in time, 2 guys who was very close in the competition will go, I hit you first, right? And the guy goes, well, no, I got the point because the judge says I hit you first. Well, let's see who can really go. So that evolved into what we call full contact karate. Which is we're actually going to hit each other and try to knock each other's head off. And then that evolved into kickboxing with the rounds, and so many kick to a round. So you got to kick so many times. So you can't just come in and box. And that evolved into kickboxing. And Professional Karate Association, PKA, was the organization that kind of put everybody into a structure in a weight class. And I was the number 1 in the world from about 71, and I fought till 81.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
Nice, a solid decade. That's you can't beat that. That's great.
Yeah, so I got to fight and made a name for myself. And I had a karate school and health club. That's what I was doing when I got a call to with Eric. After Eric was in wrestling, he said, "Hey, come to Japan with me. And, I want you to help me out with this New Japan thing." And next thing you knew, I was managing all the Japanese guys coming over here, but none of them spoke English. So I was their mouthpiece.
No,
That's how I got involved in wrestling.
Yeah, I used to watch WCW. I remember watching you wrestle. You had a lot. You managed a lot of different people from.
Yeah, I was fortunate. Yeah, I'm Great Muda, Shono, Masa Saito, Kanemoto, Otani. These guys are all leader now, or those who are still around.
Big names.
Yeah, and Muda just retired. I was there for his last event.
Oh, I saw that. I saw his. Yeah, that was a good match. That was a really good match.
Yeah, yeah. I brought Sting over there, so that was a pretty big deal. On January 20th, I think we were there, and it's really funny because and because of my relationship with knowing the business with Japanese and knowing how to do business with Japanese, and very small net group of wrestling, because it's still it's a very close society, especially in Japan. So I get to do business. I work with a company called Pro Wrestling Noah, and matter of fact, when we get down here, I'm going to be talking to them on a Zoom call. So
right,
yeah.
And Muda just got inducted into the Hall of Fame, right? At WrestleMania.
Yeah, sure was. I was there. Yeah.
And didn't he sprayed you with his mist, right? I mean,
he sprayed with a mist. Actually, yeah.
Japan?
Well, one time he did it on WCW.
Yeah. And he joined the NWO or something.
He joined the NWO. Yeah. So I was involved in the NWO Japan thing, or the birth of. Chono and Muda basically became similar to what was here with Hall and Nash.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's
well,
awesome.
You're wrestling, buddy.
Oh, yeah.
Tony watches a lot of this. I mean, again, Tony's well versed with MMA, professional wrestling, and then just a slew of other things that he's involved in as well.
Huge fan of you and your work and everything that you did. Thank you for the years of entertainment. Appreciate it.
Well, Sonny, I'm definitely going to be following back up with you in the next few days there as well, and to see what we continue, what kind of trouble we can continue to get ourselves into. But
next, Tony, I think what you should have a segment like after hours with Dan Severn, and I can come on and tell you all kind of story what Dan used to do. That we can't talk about it.
Yeah, I love it.
You know what I mean?
Let's do it.
I mean,
the envelope will be in the mail. Sorry, the envelope will be in the mail. Okay.
All right. I'm looking forward to it. We'll make it happen.
Yeah. Well, your hero, President Trump is paying out a lot of money. Of course, that got him in trouble now. So, but I'll take some of that money.
Well, I can't say I had anything to do with Stormy Daniels now here, though. So, well, thank you very much, sir, Mr. Sunny Ono, for joining us here tonight on an episode of Toxic Masculinity. If we offended anyone tonight, well, put on your big boy pants because that's what we're here for. We ask straight answers. We expect straight questions. We expect straight answers here right now. And it was another great episode. And our featured gentleman here tonight, Mr. Sunny Ono from movies and from predominantly professional wrestling. And I was just saying, and a friend of Dan Severn's. I really appreciate getting to know you that much more there, Sonny. And like I said, up in Wyoming, I really did enjoy myself a great deal with you and the Bischoffs. So
Absolutely. And Dan, and nice to have you. And Tony, it's nice meeting you.
You as well.
And we will see you next time. Just hit me up anytime. And like I said, I can give you some backstory on Dan.
Perfect.
Maybe we can call it Dark Side of Dan Severn. I don't know.
We need
sounds like one of those
waiting.
Vice episodes. So yeah, okay.
Sounds like
behind the scenes.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Take care,
Thank you.
Sonny.
Have a good night.
All right. Appreciate it.
Yep, bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching another episode of Dan and Don's Toxic Masculinity. You better like, subscribe, and share, or I'm going to come to your house.